Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to TimetoPlay.com's Empower Half Hour, where each week professionals and experts provide discussion and tips on how we can enjoy life. Today, we are proud to have Dr. Matt Gelber, a clinical psychotherapist, join us. On his contact page on his website, he wrote, "I'm very happy you found me. You just took a huge step towards making your life better." That's why he's on the Time to Play site. Dr. Gelber's professional background includes the University of New York at Stony Brook, Chestnut Hill College in Philadelphia, the region's premier marriage and family clinical counseling psychology graduate school, and Eagleville Hospital in Montgomery County, one of the nation's top rehabilitation and addiction hospitals and Pennsylvania's largest and highest rated inpatient dual diagnosis facility. Dr. Gelber's private practice is located in Malvern, Pennsylvania, where he is president and founder of the Weldon Center Malvern, developed for exploring all aspects of psychology. He writes the featured psychology column Your Life, which appears weekly in mainline newspapers, and the Ask Dr. Matt feature on the Time to Play site. Dr. Gelber is a professional resource on Time to Play under Happy. Dr. Gelber is a frequent speaker and encourages mental health awareness. Dr. Gelber's wife is an OB/GYN physician, and they are the proud parents of 2-year-old twins, Katie and Ryan. Welcome, Dr. Gelber.
Good morning, Doreen. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. You are just a wonderful resource for us.
Thank you.
Today, we are going to discuss relationships and making friends. There are many articles and stories out there regarding people being lonely and socially isolated today because of computers, Facebook, texting, email. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on, the decline in conversation of people, et cetera?
Sure, absolutely. It's something that I see daily in my practice, and it's something that alarms me in general. And throughout the years, in fact, it's becoming more and more of an issue. And it's not just teenagers, it's not just people in their 20s and 30s, it's everyone. And what's happening is that it's actually disconnecting families and disconnecting people from having long-term relationships. What I see in general with children, any age from say 10 to 18, is that the only way they can communicate is through Facebook or through email or Twitter, and that's the only thing they actually know how to do. And they've lost the skill to actually communicate one-on-one. And this, obviously is something that parents now have to deal with, where before it was something no one was aware of. And as children get older, my concern is that they're not going to learn that skill of communication. And what I've done with my practice is when I have a client who is in that age group, I really focus on not only developing their skills in how to communicate with people one-on-one, but to communicate with their parents in a way that is going to help them learn how to actually be an adult, where in the real world you have to learn how to communicate with colleagues, with people you work with in business, and how to make friends, because you can't just make friends through a computer. You have to make friends in real life, and it's like you said, it's something that I want to call almost an epidemic at this point, because parents don't know what to do, and when I work with a family, I have to actually teach the parents how to get to a place where they can consult and learn how to explore real communication. And when I say real communication, I mean exactly what we're doing. We're actually speaking, and that's the whole point. And like I said, it's not just that age group. It's going into the 20s, 30s, and 40s at this point. And
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. This is something that, before we started, we were speaking about how things will twist and turn during our conversation this morning. And as you're speaking, something that really is very prevalent today, and you hear about this more and more, it seems, but bullying, workplace violence, violence in general, relationship violence, family violence. And do you think that this lack of relationship skill building is causing insecurity and a decrease in confidence in people, where it's really affecting more? What's your opinion on something like that?
It's funny you mentioned that, because I actually just wrote a story last week on bullying and specific to that exact issue, and what I've seen happen really in the last couple of years. It's that recent that bullying is not only happening where it used to happen in schools. Now it's happening over the internet and in other different ways that you hear about in the news. And I have parents come into my office who say, this is something I'm just seeing in the news. This is obviously something that's not happening in our school, or this is something that's not happening with our son or daughter. And they come to find that it is, and they don't know how to handle it, and they don't know what to do about it, because they've never really dealt with it the way that we're dealing with it now. Because if you think of a parent who's in their 30s or 40s, they didn't ever have the opportunity to be bullied through the internet or online. And, they have to come to the reality that is something that their child could be going through. And they have to really look for the signs of what that is if their son or daughter comes to them and says, Mom or Dad, something's not right, something's wrong. If they see their child kind of withdrawing from their own social activities or from the parents in general, the parents have to be in charge at that point and say, something's up, something's wrong. And what I'm seeing, like I said, that is increasing. It's not just what you see in the news. It's not just something that happens to someone else in some other state. It is happening in every school. It's happening to every age group. And if the parents can become empowered to understand what the signs are for that, that would be incredibly helpful, not only for their son or daughter, but for the whole concept of bullying. Because if you stopped one bully every day, you're stopping the cycle, and that cycle has to be stopped, because it does go too far. And it upsets me every day to hear a story of a situation that if the parents did act earlier, it would never have gotten to a point where their son or daughter actually has a psychological issue because of it, or does something completely out of the norm, or to the extreme, takes their own life, which is something that nobody's really dealt with before, because we've never had this kind of communication issue prior to the last 10 years. So,
I honestly think it's not just specific to there. As a matter of fact, about 2 weeks ago, through this TimetoPlay project, and we try to put out positive thoughts of the day every day, because people get I don't know how you explain, just down on themselves. It's a very hard world nowadays that we do live in, and there's a lot that goes into everything that we do. But I did get a Facebook message where, somebody was telling me that the positive thoughts of the day at least are helping them, because they have been having a really hard time at work. And I know personally I've had people give me a really hard time at work. Do you think that this is stemming from the inability to do the relationships, or that whole insecurity confidence problem? And is that what's causing basically I want to provide people with tips on how to make the positive relationships, but is it necessary to figure out what's causing the underlying, what's your opinion?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the first step with that is you'd have to look at yourself to begin with and kind of review where you are personally in terms of, is this something that's coming from me, or is this something that's coming at me? That's the first step. You need to look at the scenario in real life and be honest with yourself and say, is this a personality trait that I'm giving off to someone else, or is this something that, I'm seeing over and over again because I'm involving myself with people that, A, are not supportive of me, or B, are generally not understanding who I am. And that's really the first step, to take some kind of understanding of where you are in this process. And once you do that, then you can figure out, if it is something within you, it would be time to, either something you can resolve on your own, or it'd be time to seek some help in resolving that issue with therapists, talking it through. I can say personally that with many clients, once they figure out that it is a personality trait and they can resolve it, they can make friends much easier, they can communicate much easier, and it changes their life. So when I say life change, it really is dramatic. And the first step is really taking some understanding within yourself where we get wrapped up in day to day. We get wrapped up in, working more hours than ever. We get wrapped up in trying to provide for our family, but you have to take care of yourself first. And that's my therapeutic belief in general, that if you can't be a happy person and you can't be someone that makes other people happy, it's going to be very difficult to move forward that way. And like you mentioned, this is happening more and more now. And my belief is that, with the economy, with people feeling pressured in their jobs to either work harder to prove that they can keep their job, or work longer to show that they're responsible, it's clearly affecting their families and their relationships. And like I said, if you sit down with yourself, which many people don't do anymore, and it's something that's so important, and it's really not a difficult process if you're just honest with yourself and say, what is it that I want to change? What is it that I want to look at? What is it that I don't like that's either happening to me or something that I'm doing to get this in return? And like I said, that's a great first step. And if everybody was able to do that today and look at themselves in that realistic manner, it would really be life-changing for a lot of people, because, like I said, you don't take that kind of time anymore for yourselves. And our society and our economy and our way of life right now is not allowing you to. And that's something that has to change as well, that the more you know yourself, the more your partner or your potential partner will get to know you. And in general, it's very difficult to make a happy couple or make a happy family if the individual people aren't happy with themselves. And that's really, I can't stress enough how much of a great first step for anyone in any situation that is, to just be honest with yourself and figure out what really are my faults, and how can I go about today to change them.
That is an excellent advice to people, and truly the absolute heart of what Time to Play is.
Sure.
Again, why you're there.
Sure.
Maybe we can do a little article for you for next week or something regarding this.
Okay.
How those first steps to change.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I have been touting you because the column that you do write in
Sure.
the Your Life is more of that Dear Ann Landers kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And relationships are huge. I mean, if you have a good day with your spouse, or if you have a good date, or if you have a bad date, like,
Sure.
The Cloud 9 philosophy, maybe,
Absolutely.
But that is something that I think is important. Like, as I was doing this and talking to a lot of people in the beginning of developing the Time to Play site, I've noticed a lot of people are divorced or becoming divorced or unhappy in their marriages. And we were briefly talking, like the Center for Disease Control actually posted that, I have the statistic, that 35% of the population in the year of 2009 is divorced. And we were speaking briefly, like, honestly,
sure.
Everybody I talk to in my age group, 40s, 50s, it seems they're divorced, unhappy in their relationships, et cetera. Is this more of a result of what we were just talking about? Is this happiness with yourself and this look to change, or do you find the divorce statistics at 35% accurate?
Sure.
Yeah,
it's interesting that is a statistic that is published, because the honesty behind that is that's not the truth. The actual truth is that the divorce rate is somewhere in the mid-50s at this point and climbing. And when I started my practice about 8 years ago, it was under 50%. So we're looking at something that is definitely changing in the wrong direction. So every day I make it my goal to, work with couples to get them to a place where divorce actually will come down. Because like what you said, in your age group, you're at that point where you're making life decisions to say, am I going to spend the rest of my life with this person or not? But I have couples, in their 30s where that's really beginning the issue, that they come in with 10, 15 problems with their spouse, and you have to go through each issue to resolve it. But people don't take the time and don't have the time to really work on the things that they really, really, truly need to work on to get to a place so when they're in their 40s and their 50s, they're happy with their spouse. That's the whole point. And it's beginning earlier and earlier. When I see a couple who comes in who's been married for 6 months, and they tell me we're just not happy, I mean, obviously as a therapist, I say to myself, well, 6 months ago, you just got married. So what is dramatically changing people's views of each other, that so much so that the divorce rate is getting more and more over the years rather than less and less, and it's mind-boggling on some level to hear people who are at one point, like I said, here's an example of 6 months ago, happy enough to get married and have their whole family involved and have everybody happy for them, and then 6 months later saying, I don't really know this person. And I hear that, I hear that 6 months, I hear that at 5 years, and I hear that at 10 years. And you have to look at, I mean, obviously you have to take every issue specifically for each person, but in general, you have to look at what are the general specifics of the issue. Is this a relationship issue with the other person? Is it a personal issue with one member of the couple? And you really have to take it case by case and figure out what is going on, and it's always, everybody always wants to say it's one of two things. It always has to do with money or it has to do with sex. And sometimes that's true and sometimes it's absolutely not true. It has to do with, I really did not get to know this person the way I should have. And it goes to what we've said all along in this conversation, that people don't know how to communicate anymore. And if people communicated correctly in a way where they were honest and open, I don't think I'd be seeing, and we wouldn't be seeing, the increase in divorce. We'd be seeing a decline, because, if you're not honest with the person you end up marrying, and you're not honest about yourself and honest about your past and honest about, what you want in the future and your dreams together as a couple, you're never going to achieve that. And right. That's my number one comment with divorce that I see, that people get married, they're happy, They feel confident in their decision, and then they figure out in the next few months to years that person that they married is not the person that shares their dreams or shares their life that they once thought they wanted in the future. And if you get to that point where you feel that this person is not, looking out for my best interests, or they're not connected with me in the same way that, I want 2 children, or say I want to be in my 50s and be at this part of my profession. If you don't have those same goals and you don't have the same drive, it pulls apart a relationship. And the only thing that's really making that much, much worse in the last 5 years is that people are feeling that stress of the economy and feeling that stress of, I have to work till 8 o'clock at night, and if I don't, I could get fired, and I'm seeing that's the biggest increase of issues that I've been seeing, and like I said, it does sometimes come down to sex and money, because if there's a lack of either, it begins the problem. That's just the beginning. That's never the end point. That's normally the reason why one person or both people in the couple start to have an issue with the other, and it circles right back to exactly what you started with me here today, that if you don't communicate these things and you don't know how to communicate these things with each other, you'll never get to a resolution. And
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Sure.
I appreciate that. Now, let's go back to insecurity and how can people become more secure with themselves? Is this going back to do that soul searching? What are your suggestions on how people can start to get on the right path?
Sure, absolutely. It's amazing. I see so much of a self-confidence issue in therapy where it stems from either something that happened or the way you were raised growing up, and it can come from that where psychologically you can resolve that over a period of time and feel build a self-esteem, but that's more of the typical self-esteem issue. The more atypical self-esteem issue is something that's created over time, meaning that you once had a strong self-esteem and you lose it over time. And that's what I've been seeing more of in the recent years, that people who were once feeling very good and feeling very proud of themselves don't have that same pride. And that's something, like I said before, that's something that you really have to look at and be honest with yourself, that everybody says, that depression rates are climbing, and it is true, but the depression rates shouldn't be climbing at this point, because people can take charge of their lives and motivate themselves and work at goals that they can create and we can create together and achieve. The best way to turn around not feeling positive about yourself is reaching goals. And I think that people set unrealistic goals in general. They set very high standards. And I totally respect high standards, but if you put a goal out there and you never achieve it, what that does to you psychologically over time is you start to not believe in yourself anymore. And that's what people are doing. They're putting out these extraordinary goals, and yet they're reaching fantastic goals every day. They're just not recognizing them to be what they truly are. And what I use in therapy is short-term, real-life, positive goals and reachable goals. And it goes back to what I said before. If you can look at yourself and be honest with yourself, and you can set these goals, once you start achieving them on a daily, weekly basis, you start to turn around depression. You don't have to be on medication for the rest of your life because you're depressed. That's just not true, and people believe that. People come into my office believing that I'm depressed, I'm on medication, and this is how I have to live. And I tell them that's absolutely not true. That's absolutely the opposite. That you can take control of your life. You can take your life back and make it what you want it to be. And depression will not be a part of your life, and your self-esteem will grow. I believe, and I see these outcomes every day, that your self-esteem will grow into a place that's never even been before. And
right.
To see that accomplishment on an individual basis is what keeps me going, to see my clients reach those goals.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
I did work in healthcare, or I have been working in healthcare since 1987, and I have also seen the increase of anxiety, increase of depression, increase of use of antidepressants.
Absolutely.
And, it is sad, and it is where this is one of the goals of Time to Play, is not to have regrets in your life, because by the time you get to that nursing home, you don't want to have those regrets. You want to make sure you've accomplished and you've achieved and you set those goals, and you do take pride in your life, and you do take pride in what you do. And it's hard for us out here. And
Absolutely.
I think that we do get beaten down significantly. We do have like 5 minutes left, so I'm going to just take a quick break and do my little housekeeping stuff,
Sure.
and then we'll just do some follow-ups and summary with tips of what we need to do for today, so that we can empower in our Empower half hour here. So just to recap, Dr. Gelber is our own Dear Abby. If you do have questions, go on TimetoPlay.com and either go to Dr. Gelber's page under Happiness, or go to the bottom of the home page for the link where you can ask Dr. Gelber a question. He'll answer 2 a week, and the responses will be posted confidentially on the Time to Play site. You can contact Dr. Gelber through the Time to Play site, his website, www.mattgelber.com, or 610-310-5898. Next week is November 2nd. I cannot believe it's November. Our guest is going to be Michael Aziz, author of The Perfect 10 Diet. And Dr. Aziz is a professional resource under the health section on the Time to Play site. And on November 9th, our own Tammy Reccanello from It's Time to Get Fit, and Michael Waterman, our makeup and beauty consultant expert, will be discussing how to look beautiful from the inside and out. And I believe Ron Villano will be with us on November 16th. After the programs, don't forget the podcasts are available on demand, and you could go back and listen to Dr. Gelber's. There's so much information that Dr. Gelber put out here that we really should re-listen to. I'm going to re-listen again because it's useful information to make us achieve happiness in our life. And Jeff Goldberg's discussion on how to beat a seasonal sales slump is on demand. And just so we can get this out there, Time to Play is a people helping people project, and the only way it will work is if people use the site so we can start helping each other. Start posting events, tell your friends, send me questions. A new forum will be up shortly, hopefully by tomorrow. We're pushing to get that done. We're going to be starting a book club, a poetry corner. Poetry is an excellent way for people to do self-expression, and an Ask Michael Beauty Tips column and more. And even though I hate Facebook and all that, but if you like us on Facebook at TimetoPlay.com is the name of the Facebook page, or on Twitter at TimetoPlayNews, we do post a positive quote of the day, and I know for a fact that it has helped a whole bunch of people already. So, Dr. Gelber, give me a to-do list for today.
Oh, boy. To-do list. Just, get out there and start turning people's lives around. Obviously, you're doing that, and I want more people to do that in general for themselves. That's my whole goal in life and in therapy, that one by one, if everybody does something good for themselves on a daily basis and they work towards goals that they can set for themselves and they can achieve, you're going to see things turn around finally in society where there's going to be happiness. We're going to reduce the divorce rate. We're going to get rid of depression as a whole, because I think that if people really do these things for themselves and take this from A to Z, it's not a one-step process. It's a long-term process. But if you can take that process, follow it through, get to a better place for you, your family, your children, society will finally change, and it'll turn around, and we're going to have happier families, happier people, happier individuals. And that's my whole point in general. And if you take one step today, make it a big step, and make it a big step to make a absolute right in your life to have happiness. And that's my plan. That's my plan for everyone.
So everybody's got to take a step back and look at what will make them happy. And that's the first step today. Let's take a look at ourselves and see what will make us happy in our relationships and our personal life. And I want to truly, truly thank Dr. Gelber for his time today, because there's just this information that we just discussed is just the best and most helpful.
Absolutely.
I would like to remind everybody to embrace the time to play philosophy. You have to be healthy, happy, have money, and a work-life balance. And money just means you need to eat, so you don't have to have $1 billion, but so that you don't have stress. And a work-life balance to have quality of life. Go to TimetoPlay.com to find all sorts of resources on how to have a better life. It's time for you to enjoy your life. Thank you for joining us today.